This podcast was produced using artificial intelligence and refined by human editors. Ciao, travelers, and welcome back to another installment of Travel with Lara and Luca, where we fuel your wanderlust and guide you through the world's most awe-inspiring destinations.
And of course, provide plenty of laughs along the way. I'm Luca, the gelato enthusiast and unofficial Italian hand gesture expert.
And I'm Lara, your art history aficionado who believes every meal in Italy deserves an accompanying glass of wine. Today's episode is particularly close to our hearts.
We're taking you to the heart of Italy, the cradle of civilization, the city where you can literally trip over ancient ruins while texting. Rome.
Ah, Roma. A city so layered with history, every step you take is a journey through time. From emperors and gladiators to artists and popes, you'll find every corner of Rome steeped in stories.
Speaking of stories, remember when we were kids, Lara, and we first heard the tale of Romulus and Remus and decided to reenact it? And I, being the good-natured friend that I am, graciously accepted to be Remus, with one condition, that we'd use our stuffed animals as the wolf.
It did not go as planned. Your mom walked in, we were surrounded by a fortress of pillows, draped in bath towels, and I was about to found Rome on your bedroom carpet.
Yes, my mom was convinced we were starting a cult. Good times. But for our listeners, today we won't be founding any new cities. Instead, we'll be diving into the rich offerings of Rome, starting with some of its most iconic sites.
When you say Rome, people instantly picture the Colosseum, the amphitheater where gladiators battled it out for their glory and freedom. It's truly a testament to the engineering prowess of ancient Romans.
You know, I always imagine what the job interviews for gladiators must have been like. So, what makes you think you're a good fit for this role? Are you okay with working weekends and, potentially fatal outcomes? Then there's the tiny city within the city, Vatican City, the world's smallest independent state. It's where you'll find the Pope, the Sistine Chapel, and enough art to keep you marveling for days.
Michelangelo's ceiling in the Sistine Chapel is so famous, it has its own neck strain named after it. Make sure you stretch before looking up.
And no visit to Rome is complete without marveling at the Pantheon. Completed by Emperor Hadrian around 126 AD, this building has the world's largest unreinforced concrete dome. It's an architect's dream and a magician's best trick. How did they even build that back then?
It's incredible, really. Did you know it was originally a temple for all pagan gods? Now that's a party I wouldn't want to miss. Altars, incense, togas. Wait, isn't that just like our grade school plays?
Yes, minus the divine inspiration and the centuries of history. Speaking of history, let's not forget the Roman cuisine. Nothing tells the story of a place like its food, and Roman dishes are all about simple ingredients and time-tested flavors.
Oh, the eternal battle of carbonara versus amatriciana. I mean, you have pancetta, pecorino, tomato.
Don't forget the guanciale. And eggs. Only eggs. Real carbonara doesn't have any cream, folks. Remember when I tried to make it for that exchange student and they asked, "Where's the cream?" I almost had a heartache.
You mean a heart attack?
Close enough.
And we cannot neglect the sacred gelato in coffee culture. Gelato is more than just Italian ice cream. It's a craft, an art form, a way of life. And coffee, well, Luca here might have a slight addiction.
Slight? If by slight you mean I can't function without my 4 espressos a day, then yes, very slight. But the way Italians do coffee, it's a quick, stand-at-the-bar shot of energy and conversation. It's social fuel. I'd say it's my favorite pastime.
I believe it, but let's not give away too much just yet. We've also got hidden gems, must-see places, and weird tales that you won't find in your average guidebook.
Now, hidden gems. Rome has an endless supply, but one of my favorites has to be the Aventine keyhole. This is where a simple peek through a keyhole on an old green door provides the most extraordinary view of St. Peter's Basilica, perfectly framed by garden hedges.
It's all about perspective. So poetic how the vastness of the basilica can be observed through such a small space. But I think the time you tried to propose to that tourist there was more comedic than poetic.
A man's got to shoot his shot, Lara. But yes, the Aventine keyhole is one of those off-the-beaten-path spots that really captures the imagination. Kind of like the ancient Appian Way, via Ostia Antica.
The Appian Way really gives you a sense of stepping back into history, doesn't it? Walking down the cobblestone road laid out over 2,000 years ago is breathtaking. Just watch out for those potholes.
Tell me about it. Remember when my foot got stuck in one of them? I had visions of being discovered by archaeologists centuries from now, still wearing my Nikes.
On the topic of unforgettable Roman experiences, let's not overlook the beauty of the Trastevere neighborhood. The narrow cobblestone streets are lined with pubs, trattorias, and gelaterias, which makes it the perfect place to get wonderfully lost.
And enjoy the authentic Roman spirit. The artists, the street music, the way the golden light hits the buildings at sunset, magical. Then again, there was that one time we met that street mime who wouldn't leave us alone.
That mime had more personality in his silent act than most talk show hosts you see today.
He was definitely memorable. Shall we give our listeners a heads up on some must-see places too?
Absolutely. For instance, the Trevi Fountain, where you can watch over 2,500 euros get tossed in every day. And don't forget to make a wish when you throw your own coins.
The 2,500 euro question is, how many wishes actually come true? And if you've been to the Trevi Fountain without seeing the Roman Forum, you've only seen half the story. Walking among the ruins, you can almost hear the whispers of politicians and philosophers debating the fate of the empire.
Speaking of whispers and peculiar stories, Rome has some pretty weird historical facts. We have emperors who thought they were gods, and others who, interesting tidbit, sang and played the lyre while Rome was burning.
And, for our listeners who delight in the unusual, there are plenty of secret passageways and legends. A city as old as Rome is rich in tall tales and ghost stories. Some are more believable than others, right, Lara?
Let's just say after hearing some of Luca's ghost stories, you'll be sleeping with one eye open.
What can I say? I do have a knack for the dramatic.
Rome wouldn't be Rome without a few eccentric emperors and mysteries around every corner. But let's not forget the practical side. We've got some indispensable travel tips for navigating the Eternal City to make the best out of your visit.
Yes, from avoiding overcrowded tourist traps to finding that perfect Airbnb with a view of the Colosseum, we've got the inside scoop.
And finally, we'll wrap up with some side excursions, because there's so much more to see just a train ride away from Rome. Places like Ostia Antica and the verdant oasis of Tivoli's gardens.
Or the peaceful retreat of Castel Gandolfo, where even the Pope has a summer residence.
That Vespa trip we took there, though. Some curves are best taken slow, aren't they?
If only Vespas came with training wheels for you, Lara.
Well, we might not be the best on two wheels, but when it comes to revealing Rome's heart and soul, we're your seasoned guides.
So stay tuned as we unfold the wonders of Rome. From series-old landmarks to its mouth-watering dishes, hidden spots, and some peculiar tales that even the Romans themselves might not know.
This is your passport to the past, present, and future of one of the most captivating cities on Earth. Don't just listen. Let your imagination walk the cobbled paths, feel the warm Mediterranean breeze, dive into the rich history, and laugh along with us. So buckle up, or should we say, tighten your sandals.
And get ready for an adventure through Roma, the city where legends are born and history is home. Thank you for joining us, dear travelers. This is Travel with Lara and Luca.
Arrivederci for now, but only until the next stop on our journey together.
Welcome back, adventurers. Lara and I are your storytellers today, guiding you through the heart of Rome, starting with its grandest arena and one of the most recognizable landmarks in the world, the mighty Colosseum.
You can feel the ground trembling with the echoes of the past as soon as you step inside. Imagine being in the midst of 50,000 spectators cheering, jeering, and gasping as gladiators clashed swords and faced wild beasts for their honor.
My kind of Saturday night. The Colosseum, or as it was originally known, the Flavian Amphitheater, was a marvel of engineering. Built between 70 to 80 AD, it was where Romans came to be entertained, to feel a rush of adrenaline, and, well, indulge in some people-watching.
Just like your people-watching at the cafe, except with a bit more blood sport.
But it wasn't all about fights to the death. There were also mock sea battles, animal hunts, and even dramas based on classical mythology. It's like the ancient version of our modern-day streaming services, but live.
Exactly. and you'd better believe those events were the talk of the town. It's also incredible to think about the underground labyrinth beneath the arena, the Hypogeum. That's where the gladiators and animals would wait before their grand entrance. The level of logistics to create those spectacles was nothing short of astonishing.
Speaking of astonishing, we can't talk about Roman sites without mentioning the sovereign state hidden within the city, Vatican City. It's the headquarters of the Roman Catholic Church and home to the Pope, with enough art to rival any museum in the world.
And yes, Vatican City is an actual country, complete with its own postal service, radio station, and even an ATM with instructions in Latin. It's like traveling to multiple countries in one go.
One does not simply visit Rome without stepping foot into the Sistine Chapel. Michelangelo's iconic frescoes covering the ceiling and the altar wall with the Last Judgment are there. Just wow.
Remember, when we finally got in to see it, and you were disappointed there weren't any Ninja Turtles?
In my defense, I was 10, and I did think Michelangelo could use a pair of nunchucks.
But you can't help but stand in awe of Michelangelo's work. Fun fact, though, he wasn't thrilled about the commission. He considered himself a sculptor, not a painter. Can you imagine? One of the greatest masterpieces was completed by someone who was essentially grumbling about it the whole time.
That gives me hope for my grumpy days. A masterpiece might just come out of it. Up next on our tour de force of iconic sites, the Pantheon. A building so well preserved, you'll do a double take to make sure you didn't accidentally time travel back to 126 AD.
The Pantheon was a temple for all the gods, but today it serves as a church. Its dome is the largest unreinforced concrete dome in the world. How have they built it without the help of modern machinery? That remains one of Rome's many mysteries.
And let's not forget that hole at the top, the oculus. It serves as a natural light source and a connection to the heavens. It's like the Pantheon's very own skylight, except that it rains inside when it storms, which means if the gods are displeased, you'll know.
Maybe the Pantheon was the original wet floor sign inventor?
You're probably onto something. And by the way, when you go to the Pantheon, don't miss Raphael's tomb. Yes, the Renaissance master himself is buried there. If you were looking for cool final resting place goals, there you have it.
It's mind-blowing to think that such feats of architecture and artistry have withstood the test of time and are still here for us to stand right in front of them. One of the reasons I love Rome so much is that history is not confined to the pages of a book. It's alive, surrounding you at every corner.
Speaking of things that are alive, let's move from ancient stones to living history. Vatican City's St. Peter's Basilica, an absolute masterpiece of Renaissance architecture. You've got Bernini, Michelangelo, Bramante. It's like the Avengers of art history.
St. Peter's Basilica stands on what is believed to be the tomb of St. Peter himself. The sense of solemnity you feel there is spine-tingling, and if you're up for a workout, climbing up to the dome gives you a panoramic view of the city that's worth every step.
Don't fancy a climb? The Vatican museums are just next door, with enough art and history to keep you busy from here till eternity. Make sure to follow the flow of tourists, or you might end up circling the gallery of maps indefinitely.
Oh, and for those wanting to see the Pope, catch a papal audience on Wednesdays or the Angelus on Sundays. It's awe-inspiring to witness the cheers of the crowd as the Pope makes an appearance.
It's the Vatican's version of a rock concert. Keep your eyes peeled for the Swiss Guard, too. Those are the Pope's personal bodyguards in their resplendent Renaissance uniforms, designed by none other than Michelangelo. They're history's most colorful soldiers.
And let's not forget about our next magnificent site, the Roman Forum, the bustling heart of ancient Rome. Today, it may look like an assortment of broken columns and scattered stones, but with a little bit of imagination,
you can see senators plotting, vendors selling their olive oils, and poets reciting their latest epics. It was essentially the downtown Rome of its day, where all the action happened, from politics to business to religion.
To think that this now tranquil space was once the center of Roman public life is mind-boggling. The Forum was filled with grand temples, majestic basilicas, and vibrant public spaces. It was here that famous orators like Cicero would have captivated the crowds with their eloquence.
And possibly where Julius Caesar was cremated. If you're lucky, still today, on certain days, you might catch a whiff of ambition and betrayal in the air. Or that could just be the nearby restaurants getting ready for lunch.
Either way, it's an intoxicating blend.
Rome is a feast for the senses, eye candy for the architecture buff, earworms of history for the curious, and literal feasts for the foodies. But we haven't even scratched the surface. We still have much to uncover, like where to find the best Roman cuisine that will make your taste buds dance the tarantella.
And uncover the culinary secrets that make Roman dishes so unforgettable. Stay tuned as Travel with Lara and Luca delve into the delicious world of Roman cuisine up next. Welcome back to our flavor-filled journey of Travel with Lara and Luca. We've explored the sights. Now let's indulge in one of Rome's most beloved aspects, the food.
Lara, if only we could start every section with the sound of simmering garlic and crackling pasta water. But before we dive in, we need to discuss the two heavyweights of Roman pasta dishes.
Of course, you can't talk about Roman cuisine without mentioning the legendary pasta classics, carbonara and amatriciana. These dishes are simple, yet notoriously easy to get wrong if you don't follow the traditional methods.
Carbonara, for example. Its beauty lies in its simplicity. Eggs, pecorino romano cheese, cured pork cheek called guanciale, and plenty of black pepper, all swirled together with perfectly cooked pasta. Just the thought makes me hungry.
And remember, my dear fellow travelers, if someone tries to add cream to your carbonara, it's not authentic. That's like putting ketchup on a well-crafted pizza. They may take away your passport for that.
The other contender for pasta supremacy is amatriciana. Originating from the town of Amatrice, this dish includes guanciale, pecorino cheese, and a beautiful tomato sauce, sometimes with a cheeky addition of chili flakes for a kick.
And do you recall the first time you tried to make amatriciana for our high school Italian club?
Do I ever? Let's just say tomato sauce should not be used as hair gel. It was a delicious disaster.
Yes, but it's these dishes' ability to bring people together, often around a shared table, with laughter and love, that makes them central to the Italian experience.
But pasta isn't all Rome has to offer. Let's take a stroll down to the Jewish ghetto, one of the oldest Jewish communities in Europe, and talk about the famous Roman fried artichokes, or carciofi alla Judia.
Crunchy on the outside, tender on the inside, these artichokes are a divine Roman Jewish culinary creation. Once again proving that the best way to artichoke hearts is to fry them to golden perfection.
Ah, puns and food, two of my favorite things. Now, if we're talking street food, we can't skip supplì. These are fried rice balls filled with mozzarella that stretch into what we Italy enthusiasts call telefono, alluding to the telephone cord-like cheese strings when you pull them apart.
I'd call that deliciously long distance. And if that's not filling enough, head over to any pizzeria for a slice of pizza al taglio. Pizza by the cut, where you pay by weight. You might think you've tried pizza before, but nothing compares to that first bite of a crispy yet doughy Roman slice.
You always remember your first, right? Remember how we nearly missed our Colosseum tour because I couldn't resist just one more slice?
How could I forget? We raced across Rome fueled by pizza and desperation not to be late. Moving from savory to sweet, no Roman escapade is complete without talking about gelato. It's an edible palette of colors and a festival of flavors in your hand.
And choosing flavors can be as intricate as choosing your gladiator at the Colosseum. Remember, dear listeners, gelato that's mounded high and brightly colored is likely not the real deal. Look for more subdued colors and metal containers. That's your ticket to authentic creamy bliss.
And despite my friend Luca's espresso obsession, we must make time for another Italian powerhouse, the coffee culture.
Ah, coffee, the very lifeblood of Rome. And it's not just about the drink, it's about the ritual. You grab your espresso at the bar, you take it down in 1 or 2 sips, maybe with a splash of sugar, and you're on your way.
You'll notice there's no Starbucks-style venti here. It's all about quality over quantity. And if you want to blend in, don't order a cappuccino after 11 a.m. It's considered a morning drink, and Romans might give you that musing chuckle, reserved for clueless tourists.
But make no mistake, a little Roman chuckle is still filled with warmth. After all, you are trying. And let's not forget about the cornetto, Italy's croissant, perfect alongside your morning coffee.
Oh, the pastries. We could wax poetic about the bakeries of Rome. From flaky pastries to ricotta-filled tarts, Italians really do have a sweet tooth.
But let's loop back to the savory for a moment. Another must-try is coda alla vaccinara, or oxtail stew. It's a hearty homage to Roman nose-to-tail cooking traditions, and while it might not sound glamorous,
it's a mouth-watering staple, rich and full of flavor, perfect for those cooler Roman nights. Luca, remember during our last visit when the owner of that tiny trattoria convinced you to try it? You were skeptical at first?
Skeptical is an understatement. But that dish made me believe that Romans can cook anything to perfection. The meat was so tender it fell right off the bone. Another stellar showcase of Rome's ability to turn simple ingredients into something spectacular.
Able to turn simple into spectacular. Sounds like someone I know.
Flattery will get you another gelato, Lara. And let's not forget to extend the love to vegetables. Romans have a way with greens like chicoria or chicory. Simply sautéed with garlic and olive oil, and you have a delightful side that balances out the indulgence.
You'd think with all this talk about indulgence that dining in Rome would be a formal affair, but it's quite the opposite. Italians love their food, but it's the relaxed, convivial atmosphere of Roman eateries, from fine dining to the humblest osteria, that completes the experience.
That's what makes food here special. It's the whole environment. It's the waiter tossing the pasta expertly in the pan, the clang of dishes from the kitchen, the hum of Italian conversations, and that feeling that eating is not just a necessity, but a joyous event to be shared.
Well, now that we've got our listeners' mouths watering and stomachs grumbling, it's probably a good time to take a quick break before we venture off to Rome's hidden gems, the quirky corners, and secret spots that lie just beyond the cobblestone path.
We're talking about the places that guidebooks may mention in passing, but we know intimately. The spots we've stumbled upon or have been led to by local whispers and chance encounters.
Stay with us as Travel with Lara and Luca discover the hidden charm and untold stories woven into the urban tapestry of Rome. Our Roman holiday continues, dear listeners, and it's time to duck away from the bustling avenues and slip into the city's more secret spaces. I'm Lara.
And I'm Luca, ready to reveal Rome's hidden gems, those tucked-away treasures that offer stories and sights even the most astute of travelers might miss.
First up is a little magical portal known as the Aventine Keyhole. Perched atop Aventine Hill lies the Priory of the Knights of Malta, and in its door, a keyhole offering a perfectly composed view of St. Peter's Basilica.
This keyhole might be one of Rome's most enchanting secrets. It's as if you're peering through time and space, catching a glimpse of Vatican City framed by Roman foliage. It's a bit of a lover's spot too, isn't it, Lara?
That it is, Luca. Maybe not the best place for a proposal, as some eager romantic souls might think.
Yes, I might have made that mistake. But in my defense, the view was so breathtakingly romantic, how could I not? Thankfully, the only answer I got was the sound of my own echo. Single and ready to mingle, I suppose.
Another place that often escapes the typical tourist radar is Via Ostia Antica, the Queen of Roads. It's quite literally a path through history, with its ancient cobblestones that connected Rome to the port of Brindisi in the southeast, the starting point for routes to Greece and the east.
Did you know it's said that Spartacus' army was crucified along this road? It's eerie and awe-inspiring all at once. Walking down Via Ostia Antica is like wandering through the hallways of the past, with mausoleums and ruins lining the way like old portraits in a grand castle.
Just wear sturdy shoes, unlike Luca and his incident with the world's oldest shoelace trap, a pothole from the BC era.
Hey, it's not every day your shoe gets a history lesson. Nevertheless, trekking down this ancient road is to step into the tale of Rome's rise and reach, and every so often, you may even discover a poppy field or a flock of sheep. It's a surreal break from the city's roar.
Speaking of breaks, let's venture into a Roman neighborhood that feels like a village within the city, the picturesque Trastevere. This is the kind of place where laundry drapes from building to building like streamers at a street party.
Trastevere is the bohemian heart of Rome, with its narrow cobblestone alleyways, climbing ivy, and a spontaneous feel that is tangible in the air. You'll find craft shops, enchanting bistros, and hang all artistic pretensions. You're surrounded by real Rome.
The nightlife there is just as colorful. I still remember that tiny wine bar where an impromptu jazz band set up shop right outside. We spent the entire night sipping vino and befriending random locals.
That's right, and one of those locals was Angelo, the so-called poet of Trastevere. With his thick mustache and battered hat, he offered us tales of Rome in exchange for a glass of Montepulciano.
His stories were as rich as the wine, woven with legends of love, passion, and of course, tragedy. Trastevere is a place to make friends with wandering musicians, street artists, and poets like Angelo. You'll leave with a heart full of songs and verses.
A lyrical charm, much like our next unforgettable place, the Protestant Cemetery. Also known as the non-Catholic cemetery, this beautiful, quiet, and somewhat melancholy spot is the final resting place of poets Keats and Shelley.
Yes, it's a serene paradise of marble packed with sculptures that seem to whisper stories. Under the shadow of the towering pyramid of Cestius. Yes, an actual ancient pyramid in Rome. The cemetery is a tranquil escape from the hustle of the city.
I always feel a sense of peace there, mixed with a profound connection to history and those who shaped it. It's as though Keats and Shelley still stroll the paths, composing silently amidst the scent of jasmine and rosemary.
Luca, you're quite the poet yourself. Let's also not overlook the Capuchin crypt, where art and the afterlife meet in a rather macabre fashion. This series of tiny chapels beneath the church of Santa Maria della Concezione dei Cappuccini is adorned with the bones of over 4,000 Capuchin monks.
Definitely not for the faint of heart. The crypt shows a fascinating yet eerie side to Rome's spiritual history. The chapels are decorated with bones arranged in patterns, even chandeliers. It's a stark reminder of life's transitory nature and Rome's enduring legacy.
And when you emerge from the crypt's dim corridors, in stark contrast, you can move on to a serene, less visited site, the Baths of Caracalla. These colossal ruins paint the picture of an imperial spa complex, designed not just for bathing, but for socializing, exercising, and philosophizing.
Walking through the colossal arches and gaping, sky-reaching walls, it feels like the echo of water and ancient conversations might just start up again at any moment. If walls could talk, the Baths of Caracalla would have their fair share of secrets to spill.
I love how each of these hidden gems offers its own unique story. They let you step off the well-trod paths and experience Rome as only those who really want to seek its heart can.
And it is in that seeking that Rome rewards you, unveiling layers of astonishment, beauty, and contemplative stillness. So remember, dear listeners, the map isn't the territory. The real Rome is waiting just around the corner, just beyond the keyhole.
As we end this section of our voyage through Rome's hidden gems, we invite you to ponder the quieter spots, the less obvious encounters, because it's often there that the essence of a city reveals itself.
Keep your map pocketed and your sense of wonder unfurled as we continue on to our next destination. Join us after the break when we dig into the must-see places, sites that, while not hidden, still contain plenty of secrets of their own. Ah, Bella Roma. You've heard about Rome's hidden nooks and crannies with us. Now let's step into the sunlight and talk about the must-see places. These are sites that echo through time and call to every traveler with their stories and splendor.
And where better to start than the iconic Trevi Fountain? A masterpiece of Baroque art, it's where dreams are cast and thousands of coins glitter beneath the crystal surface like a mermaid's treasure.
Legend has it that if you toss a coin over your left shoulder with your right hand, you'll ensure a return trip to Rome. It's not just a fountain, it's a wish-granting machine. No wonder it collects over €1 million every year.
And those coins are collected and used to support local charity works. So when you make a wish, you're also giving a little hope to others.
It's the loveliest win-win situation you'll find in Rome. But remember, no wadding a la dolce vita. The local police are not fans of impromptu reenactments.
Definitely not. But speaking of movies, the Trevi Fountain isn't just a piece of Rome's heart. It's a silver screen star. From that La Dolce Vita scene to Roman Holiday, it's a backdrop that captures the city's eternal romance.
A stone throw away are the Spanish Steps, another iconic Roman landmark leading to the Trinità dei Monti Church. They've been a meeting place for Romans and visitors alike since the 18th century.
It's the perfect place to enjoy a gelato, relax, and people watch. Look out for the wave of azaleas in the spring. It adds a burst of color to the already picturesque Piazza di Spagna below.
The steps have seen the likes of Byron, Keats, and Shelley and have been featured in countless paintings and novels. But the true art isn't just in the steps or the cinema, it's in the stories, the daily lives of people who walk them.
Each tread wears the echo of those lives. But we can't linger on the steps all day, as there's much more to see, like the Grand Roman Forum, the ancient equivalent of a city center.
It was once the heart of Roman public life, where triumphant processions strutted, elections upturned fates, and gladiatorial matches stirred the public spirit.
Today you can stroll among the remains of temples and basilicas. You're walking the same stones that senators, emperors, and philosophers once did, thinking similar thoughts of politics and the day's gossip.
I often wonder if Julius Caesar ever dropped his toga and had to awkwardly pick it up in front of the Vestal Virgins.
History doesn't record everything, thankfully. Speaking of Caesar, on the edge of the Forum, you'll find the spot where he was cremated, a place that often goes unnoticed amongst the ruins, but is a site of significant historical poignancy.
Then, stroll over to the adjacent Palatine Hill, where legend has it that Romulus founded Rome. It's the central-most of the 7 hills of Rome, and is literally the foundation of the city's mythology.
Standing there, overlooking the Circus Maximus, you're taking in a view that is more than breathtaking. It's where Rome as we know it began.
Moving on from the founding of Rome, let us whisk you across town to an architectural marvel, the Pantheon. The temple-turned church, nearly 2,000 years old, stands as a testament to Rome's eternal presence.
With its famous dome, the Pantheon has survived nearly intact through wars, plunders, and the elements. Walk inside and you're engulfed by the immense weight of history, artistry, and spiritual continuation.
The oculus in the center of the dome offers a piece of the sky, inviting the gods, or, if you lean secular, a bit of nature into the grand design.
And the perfect follow-up to the Heaven's Eye view is a visit to the Castel Sant'Angelo, originally commissioned by the Roman Emperor Hadrian as a mausoleum for himself and his family.
It later transformed into a fortress, a residence for popes, complete with a secretive passageway from the Vatican, and now a museum. The view from the top gives you a spectacular panorama of the Tiber River and St. Peter's Basilica.
Let's not miss another core must-see, Piazza Navona. Built on the site of the Stadium of Domitian, it's now a Baroque jewel with fountains by Bernini, including the famous Fountain of the Four Rivers.
And if you're there during Christmas time, the bustling market adds a charming festive layer to the already vibrant piazza. Just ask Santa. He shops there for stocking stuffers.
Indeed. But for a slightly different pace, the peaceful Campo de' Fiori is where you'll find a bustling market by day and a lively social scene by night. Fresh produce, lively vendors, and the scents of flowers and spices fill the air. It's a feast for the senses.
And standing watch over the market is the statue of philosopher Giordano Bruno, who was executed for heresy right there in the square. His brooding gaze reminds us of the wild, often cruel stories woven into Rome's streets.
Each place we've talked about here may be well-trod, but they each hold countless tales, moments of beauty, and secrets yet to be told. They are universal bookmarks that link us to the past.
As we wrap up this section, remember, Rome isn't just about the monuments you see. It's the weight of the history they carry and the personal memories you create as you move through this timeless city.
Soak it all in, take that perfect photo, and make that heartfelt wish at the Trevi. Our must-see places are grand, but the stories you leave with, they're yours, eternal as the city itself.
Stick with us as Travel with Lara and Luca leads you down the corridors of time, through strange tales, and uncovers weird facts and lesser-known histories of Rome in the next section.
Our Roman saga continues, but this time with a twist. Every city has its quirks, and Rome, well, it's no exception. Prepare for the peculiar as Travel with Lara and Luca unravels some of the Eternal City's weird facts and lesser-known stories.
Ah, Rome, a city where the history is as rich as the tiramisu. Did you know that in ancient Rome, purple clothing was a sign of power, worn by magistrates, emperors, and generals? If you wore purple without permission, well, it was bye-bye toga party for you.
Power did come with a very specific color palette, didn't it? But while on the subject of emperors, let's talk about a particular oddball, Caligula. Known more for his antics than his policies, he's rumored to have made his horse a senator.
Indeed, and that horse, Incitatus, supposedly had a marble stall, an ivory manger, and even a house. That's one pampered pony. Caligula's extravagance knew no bounds. It almost makes you wonder if he was just taking method acting as a Roman god a bit too far.
Could be. But Caligula wasn't the only emperor with an eccentric flair. The Emperor Nero famously played the fiddle, or as it was then, the lyre, while Rome burned in the Great Fire of 64 AD. Whether he actually set the fire or not, historians argue, but the image of a ruler serenading disaster is hard to shake off.
Perhaps it's that very fascination with rulers and fire that led to the creation of the Mouth of Truth, or Bocca della Verità. Legend has it that if you tell a lie with your hand in the marble disc's open mouth, it will snap shut.
Imagining a stone carving serving some swift, poetic justice does add a certain charm to the old city. Found in the Church of Santa Maria in Cosmedin, it's one of those unique attractions that tend to yield a long line of visitors and a photo op where everyone looks a little nervously happy.
You'd be nervous too if you weren't entirely sure about your hand's future. Now for a different kind of weird, let's head underground to the catacombs. Rome is a city built upon layers, the living on top of the dead. The catacombs of Rome are a sprawling network of burial tunnels, holding the remains of countless souls.
Christians, pagans, and Jews all buried their dead here, creating labyrinthine galleries that can be miles long. The weird feeling isn't just in the skull-lined walls, it's in the heavy silence that wraps around you, as if the very air is still holding its breath.
That silence speaks volumes. Climbing back to the surface, let's not forget the naming of Rome. Legend has it that Romulus named the city after himself following a little sibling squabble with his brother Remus. And by squabble, I mean fratricide. It seems the city's history was dramatic from its inception.
Dramatic indeed. I like to think Remus got a spot somewhere in the stars, or at the very least a mention every time we tell the story of Rome's naming.
Speaking of the stars, did you know the Romans had a festival where they would reverse roles for a day? The Saturnalia was a time when slaves would become the masters, and the masters would serve them.
Those ancient party planners knew how to keep things interesting. And let's give a nod to the Vestal Virgins, the priestesses of Vesta, goddess of the hearth. They were tasked with keeping the sacred fire burning and were granted rights unheard of for women at the time, like owning property and voting.
But if a Vestal Virgin let that fire go out, or, heaven forbid, broke her vow of chastity, it was underground room time and no room service. Being a Virgo myself, I can appreciate their dedication to keeping the home fires burning, literally.
Every historic city has its share of strange stories, but maybe none quite like Rome, a place where the odd and the sacred mingle freely. Like the practice of augury, interpreting the will of the gods by the flight of birds. It's how some battles were decided.
If only I could make my life choices by watching pigeons at the piazza. Now folks, for a little-known fact about one of Rome's most visible landmarks, the Vittoriano. This massive white building was controversial for its size and style. Romans have a few nicknames for it: the wedding cake, the typewriter, and my personal favorite, the false teeth.
The Vittoriano may clash a bit with the surrounding ancient scenery, but it's a monument full of national pride and provides another sweeping view of Rome from its rooftops.
And that view is a reminder that Rome isn't just a city of the weird and wonderful. It's a museum under the sky, a story under every stone, and a surprise around every corner.
It's a place where even the strangest fact is woven into a tapestry that spans epochs. A tapestry we walk beneath and among, adding our own threads to its expanse.
Indeed, Rome welcomes every traveler with open arms and maybe a quirky grin. But we've taken enough of a walk on history's wild side for now.
As we say arrivederci to the peculiar, join us after the break when we share practical insights and top travel tips, turning the magnifying glass on Rome from a traveler's perspective. We've romped through Rome's rich history and peculiar past. Now it's time to offer a helping hand to those planning their own Roman Odyssey. Welcome back to Travel with Lara and Luca as we transition into the ever-so-important travel tips.
The nuts and bolts of traveling. There's an art to navigating a city like Rome, and we want you to feel as savvy as a local and as prepared as a centurion on the march.
First things first, let's talk timing. The best time to visit Rome is during the shoulder seasons, April to June and late September to October. The weather is delightful, and the tourist crowds are thinner than in the scorching summer months.
Indeed, unless you enjoy sweating profusely in line for the Vatican museums. Speaking of lines, purchasing tickets ahead of time for major attractions like the Colosseum and the Vatican is a must. Some offer skip-the-line options, which are gold dust during peak times.
Absolutely gold. And remember, the first Sunday of every month, many museums and ancient sites offer free entry. You can save euros and sprinkle in some extra gelato budget.
I always appreciate more gelato allowance, but be warned, the free entry days can be busier than the Spanish Steps on a sunny day.
They absolutely can. Now on to navigating the city. Travel as the Romans do. The metro system here might not be as extensive as other major cities, but it's efficient and can get you close to most landmarks.
And when in Rome, take a passeggiata, a leisurely walk. It's one of the best ways to explore the city's hidden alleys and charming piazzas. Plus, it helps to burn off that extra serving of carbonara.
For those longer stretches across the cityscape, familiarize yourself with the ATAC, Rome's public transport network of buses and trams. It's relatively cheap and widespread, though be prepared for a more relaxed sense of schedule.
Another excellent tip is to look for accommodations centrally or near a metro stop. You'll spend less time commuting and more time enjoying, making your stay much more efficient and enjoyable.
Rome has a range of hotels, hostels, bed and breakfasts, and Airbnb options to suit any budget and taste. Just remember that when in Rome, smaller boutique hotels or guest houses often provide more personalized experiences.
A room with a view can add to the magic of the stay. Seeing the sun dip behind a cityscape of domes and rooftop terraces is a memory that will last much longer than any souvenir.
Speaking of souvenirs, if you plan on shopping, remember that many shops close during the afternoon for riposo, Italy's traditional midday rest. They usually reopen around 4 p.m. and stay open until about 8 p.m.
Use that riposo time to rest and recharge yourself, perhaps with an espresso, because when in Rome, you drink coffee like you're powering the city lights.
Dietary restrictions or food preferences can sometimes be a concern when traveling. Don't worry, Rome has become more vegetarian and vegan-friendly over the years, with plenty of options available if you know where to look.
Yes, Rome's food scene is evolving, but traditional Roman fare can be quite meat-centric, so doing some restaurant research ahead of time can lead to delectable discoveries that fit any dietary needs.
Culture tip, when dining out, remember that coperto is a small per-person charge for bread and the table setting. It's not a scam, it's a long-standing Italian tradition. And if you're wondering how much to tip, usually rounding up to the nearest euro or leaving a small extra is appreciated but not mandatory.
While we're on the topic of spending, be aware of pickpockets and keep an eye on your belongings, especially in crowded areas and on the metro. A money belt or a cross-body bag worn in front of you can be a smart move.
Safety first, always. And on the note of safety, ensure you have comprehensive travel insurance. Rome is a big city with all the hustle and bustle that includes, so being covered for any unexpected situations is crucial.
Speaking of unexpected situations, it helps to learn a few Italian phrases. Grazie, per favore, scusa, and il bagno will get you far in polite society. And don't be shy. Romans are generally very understanding and will appreciate any attempt at their language.
Exactly, and Italians speak with their hands as much as they do with their mouths. Don't be alarmed by the expressive gestures. It's part of the vibrant Italian communication.
It's music in motion, you might say. Lastly, make time for relaxation. Find a park, like the beautiful Villa Borghese, and take a picnic. Rome is a city to be savored slowly, like a fine wine.
Remember, traveling is not just about the photos you take, but the moments you experience. Rome can be exhilarating and overwhelming, but it can also be incredibly rewarding and enriching if you take it at the right pace.
As we gather our maps and pocket our phrases, join us after the break for our final segment, where Lara and I share side excursions from Rome, a refreshing dip into the pools of Tivoli, and a breath of sea air in Ostia Antica, and much more.
The beauty of Rome is not only found within its city limits. Join us, dear listeners, on Travel with Lara and Luca as we whisk you away to side excursions that offer a fine reprieve from the bustling city life.
Picture this. You've walked the streets of Rome. You've thrown coins in the Trevi Fountain. You've eaten your weight in pasta. Now, let's venture beyond, to places where Roman emperors would escape the summer heat, to ancient ports that held Rome's lifeline to the world.
Our first stop is just a short train journey from the heart of the city, the ancient ruins of Ostia Antica, a port city of considerable significance in ancient Rome, and now a site of incredibly well-preserved ruins that give Pompeii a run for its money.
Walking through Ostia is like exploring a snapshot in time. Paintings still cling to the walls, mosaics decorate the floors, and the amphitheater still echoes with the footsteps of the past. It's a place where history is tangible.
If you're lucky, you'll find a quiet moment amidst the ruins, where all you can hear is the brush of the wind, an ever-present witness to history. A moment when the present slips away, and you're a resident of ancient Ostia, gossiping at the local bakery.
From the bakeries of ancient Ostia, let's take a trip to the lush landscapes of Tivoli. Nestled in the hills not far from Rome, Tivoli is home to two UNESCO World Heritage Sites, the Villa d'Este and Hadrian's Villa.
The Villa d'Este is a Renaissance masterpiece. Its gardens a complex of gushing fountains, ornate terraces, and serene water features that dance in a choreography of their own. You can't help but feel tranquil.
Tranquil is the perfect word. There's something about the sound of thousands of droplets splashing in unison that makes you want to pen a sonnet or, at the very least, sit and contemplate the finer things.
And then there's Hadrian's Villa, or more appropriately, Hadrian's sprawling estate. With its pools, baths, and various classical architectural replicas, it reveals the grandeur in which the emperor lived, an ancient Roman resort town of sorts.
It's the kind of place that makes you wish for a toga and a lyre, even if your musical skills are limited to Mary Had a Little Lamb. The space is vast. You can comfortably spend a full day wandering and wondering about imperial life.
Another gem for day trippers is Castel Gandolfo, perched above the tranquil waters of Lake Albano. Famous as the Pope's summer residence, the town offers mesmerizing views, pristine air, and a heavenly peace that's hard to find in the city.
The Apostolic Palace and the Barberini Gardens are open to the public now, so if you've ever wanted to peek behind the Holy Curtain, here's your chance. Plus, the town is simply delightful with its quaint streets and local restaurants.
Don't forget that Vespa trip we took to the lake. That was quite the adventure, even if my driving was a bit creative.
Creative is one way to put it. Let's just say after that journey, you might have a career in stunt driving. Now, if you want a complete change of scenery, the Rainbow Magic Land amusement park might be just the escape. It's a whimsical wonderland with roller coasters and attractions suited for the young and the young at heart.
Or, for the wine connoisseurs out there, the Frascati region is not to be missed. Just a short train ride from Rome, Frascati is known for its crisp white wines, vineyard tours, and the opportunity to sip and savor the local viticulture.
There you go, Lara, talking about wine again.
Hey, when in Rome, or well, just outside of Rome, right? Plus, Frascati is also home to Renaissance villas and expansive views of the olive groves and vineyards that drape over the hillsides.
Those views pair well with any glass of wine, as does the sunset over the Mediterranean from the ancient port city of Santa Marinella. Pack bathing suits and beach umbrellas, this is a spot to unwind and embrace La Dolce Vita by the sea.
Santa Marinella's inviting waters and golden sands offer the perfect day off from the intensity of historical exploration. It's a favorite among Romans for a reason.
And with these side excursions, you'll get a fuller picture of the Roman world. Each location whispers its own piece of the story, and you can listen, engage, and make memories that are unique to the roads less traveled.
So, whether you're seeking the allure of ancient worlds at Ostia Antica or Tivoli, the relaxed grandeur of Castel Gandolfo, or simply a day to bask in the Italian sun, Rome's surroundings are treasure troves waiting for your discovery.
We hope you've enjoyed this journey around Rome and its beautiful environs. As we bring our series of Roman tales and tips to a close, we treasure the moments shared, the stories told, and the companionship of you, our fellow travelers.
Rome is a city that's been a friend, mentor, and muse to both of us since we were children, and we are joyful to have shared a slice of its eternal allure with you.
Until our next adventure, we bid you Arrivederci and remind you to treasure every step, every encounter, and every sight, for these are the ingredients of travel that enrich our lives and broaden our worlds.
It feels like only moments ago we embarked on our stroll through the ancient streets, tales, and flavors of Rome. Alas, dear listeners, all journeys have their end, and we're near the conclusion of our Roman escapade.
It's been an adventure of epic banquets, whispered legends, grandeur, and quaint corners. We started at the Colosseum, where the roar of ancient crowds still lingers in the air.
We wandered through Vatican City, marveling at the masterpieces of Michelangelo and the grandeur of St. Peter's Basilica, a place where the sacred and the profoundly human meet.
Together we've savored the true taste of Roman cuisine, a carbonara here, an amatriciana there, and a gelato or two to sweeten the stroll.
We sought out the hidden gems, the secret keyholes, and whispered tales. We marveled at the offbeat poetry in the streets of Trastevere and beneath the shade of ancient pines along the Appian Way.
The mandatory stops, Trevi Fountain's shimmering wishes, the Spanish Steps in their elegant glory, and the awe-inspiring Pantheon, where the past feels present and the sky is an old friend looking in.
And oh, the weirdness we've encountered. The tales of emperors and their antics, the mystical legends, the age-old customs that give this city its colorful, though sometimes peculiar character.
We've shared tips on making your Roman holiday smooth and memorable. From plotting your visit in the shoulder seasons to wisely navigating the eternal city's streets and local customs.
And our excursions showed us that there's even more beauty and history just beyond Rome's city limits. Whether in the lush haven of Tivoli, the tranquility of Castel Gandolfo, or the ancient roads of Ostia Antica, we've glimpsed the vastness of Rome's embrace.
As we bring this episode to a close, Lara and I want to thank you for joining us on this journey. While we may be your guides, it is you, our listeners, who breathe life into the stories we tell.
Embrace the excitement of planning, the thrill of discovery, and allow room for the unexpected. Rome is a city that rewards the curious, the brave, and the open-hearted.
And whether you take these stories and tips to heart on your trip to the city of the Seven Hills, or you've joined us purely for the pleasure of armchair travel, we hope you felt the cobblestones beneath your feet and the Roman sun on your face.
The Eternal City is a tapestry woven with threads of time, and you are now a part of its story. So here's to you, creating your own memories, finding your own paths, and living your own grand Roman tales.
Until our voices meet your ears again, this is Luca.
And Lara, bidding you a heartfelt Arrivederci. May the roads you travel be filled with wonder, your steps be light, and your heart always be on its way to Rome.